This podcast is sponsored by Magic Rock Brewing. Currently, you can get free delivery on all orders over £40 and 10% of all online orders by using our code of TakesThatChance10.
Christopher Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Welcome to Andy Takes That Chance to Warm Up. After spending Tuesday night with our necks looking upwards for 90 minutes, this week our panel has been tending to a trio of sore necks. Our stats gymnast Chris Markham has been pushing his trapezius. Researching as always for the episode is the extensor, Brady Frost, and making a bridge from the regular podcast to the warm-up, I'm Matt Shaw. Good evening.
Evening.
Good evening, mate.
Chaps, before we get going, it's not escaped me that due to the international break and being short of time to plan 2 or 3 episodes a week, we haven't yet on this podcast paid tribute to a Huddersfield Town legend who sadly passed away on the 11th of November. Les Massey was brought down from Banks OD in Scotland by Andy Beattie in 1953 and worked his way from the reserves to the first team in 1956, where he made 363 appearances for the first team, which places him 12th place in the all-time appearances records for the club. An inside forward, he also scored 108 goals, which puts him in 5th place in Huddersfield Town's all-time top scorers record list as well, before leaving in 1966. He was voted in the top 100 all-time fans' favourites in 2006. So this is just a moment for a Huddersfield Town hero from yesteryear. Okay, so we entertain Middlesbrough this Saturday. Middlesbrough are one of those sides that we rarely seem to get much from. As soon as you say Middlesbrough, I just think, we're going to lose. We've played each other on 94 occasions. This is a lot more than what I actually thought we had done. Town winning 32, 20 draws and 42 wins for Middlesbrough. It all seems pretty even, almost. However, Town have only beaten Middlesbrough once in the last 16 attempts and have 0 wins in the last 8 games. So my thoughts of us barely taking anything from Middlesbrough seem to be accurate. So I've picked a memorable game this week. Huddersfield Town, Middlesbrough memorable game. I've got 1.5 really. But you'll remember 2013, March 2013, Middlesbrough even brought the smog with them to take us on. Alan Lee, Danny Ward scored in the last 5 minutes for a really important 2-1 win at the time. Alan Lee, I remember, scoring from about 6 inches out and celebrated like he just rifled one in off the stanchion from 50 yards. Typical Alan Lee. You got to love his enthusiasm, haven't you, Alan Lee? And then Danny Ward hit one through the fog that I don't think anyone saw until it had actually been on the ground for a couple of minutes. But Chris, you'd have been involved then. That was such a huge win at the time because things were going a little bit south, and then after that, things picked up for us that year.
Yeah, I think it was Mark Robbins' first win, his first home win anyway, and I remember at the time, Ian Bennett, who was one of the best characters and one of the best people, he's actually goalkeeper coach now for Middlesbrough. So in sort of nice segue there. But if you remember, they scored fairly late on as well, I seem to remember.
It was Scott McDonald, and Huddersfield fans will remember Scott McDonald with much fondness, I'm sure, after the Mick Wadsworth season. Yeah,
I think, but sorry, long story. So they scored, and then we changed the colour of the ball. So we were playing terrible. We were hopeless for a while. And you think, it's going to be another long night, another 1-0 win, defeat or whatever. And then we got the orange ball out, and then we scored 2 in like 5 minutes with the orange ball. And at the end, Mark Robbins is doing his talk to the players, and then Benno just pipes up, "Don't forget it was the ball that did it, Gaffer." Just the way he said it, just absolute brilliant. But it was a fantastic finish from Wardy. And that's what he's capable of, obviously, is what we're hoping he's going to do again. Those shots from outside the box, both feet, he can, he's dangerous with that. So I think, it was a really important win at the time. And like you say, you could barely make out what was going on, but we changed the ball, scored 2, and that was all right.
Yeah, let's have a look at that.
It's down the line for Sammy Amiobi to run onto. Amiobi fishes it in, and it's turned in
by Scott McDonald. Perhaps against the run of play, but it's Middlesbrough who lead. Scott McDonald scores. Here comes the corner. Conditions worsening. Steele has spilled it. Oh, it's been bundled in. Alan Lee has come off the substitutes bench to score the equaliser for Huddersfield. 8 minutes after going behind, they are back level. Just 4 minutes from the finish. An untidy goal, but Lee and Huddersfield certainly won't care. He was in the right place at the right time. All 3 points are a possibility even at this late stage in stoppage time. It's with Daniel Ward, the Huddersfield substitute. Still Ward. Oh, he scored! Surely the winner. Deep into injury time, Danny Ward from 25 yards has completed the comeback for Huddersfield.
Okay, up front that day as well, Brady, for Middlesbrough. It's a good job Neil's not on this podcast, because up front that day was Ishmael Miller. So I'm sure Neil remembers him with great fondness as well, as we did the Middlesbrough goal scorer Scott McDonald. I also remember as well a League Cup game in 1996. I remember going up on the coach as a schoolboy. We pulled Middlesbrough out in the League Cup when Brian Horton was the manager, and there was a lot of excitement about it as well. And at this point, this is the game whereby we actually re-released or sort of reintroduced Smile a While to the Huddersfield fans. It hadn't been sung for a long, long time. And on the coach on the way up, they were passing out little sheets, how to sing the song, etc. And it had been made popular by the Final Whistle video. Alan Hinchcliffe from the 70s singing Smile a While on there, which is brilliant. It's on YouTube and it's absolutely fantastic. And that's really... And it was done for a Simon Normanton video production as well. So, there's Huddersfield video from 96 and you can see all the fans behind the goals. About 6,000 Huddersfield fans all gone up to watch. Yeah, we went, to be honest, let's be fair, we all went up to watch Ravanelli, Janino, Emerson.
He was my favourite, Emerson. Class.
Nigel Pearson? No, not Nigel Pearson.
No, I was not going to watch him, no.
Mikel Beck as well, there's another one.
Mikel Beck, yeah.
There was a rumour at school that he was actually the frontman of the band Beck as well, which a few people believed, believe it or not. And I remember when Andy Payton scored that day and we celebrated like we'd just got the winner in the last minute. It was incredible, really. It was fantastic.
We had some chances, I seem to remember. Obviously, they had a lot more chances, but they weren't one-way traffic. He missed a couple more, I think.
Yeah, good times. But hopefully more good times to come. So let's go to you, Brady. Give us the lay of the smog. Bring us up to date and tell us how Middlesbrough have been going recently.
Well, I don't think I've got good news, boys. It might be a bit cloudy. So, of course, the meme king that is Neil Warnock is in charge of this Boro side, and the 7th in the table. Comfortably beat Derby 3-0 in midweek, although that's nothing to shout about, given how Derby are playing at the moment. But, it's all positive up at Teesside. We'll hear from Jonny from the Boro Breakdown later, but he's loving it at the moment. Shout out to him. And he wasn't expecting anything at the start of the season. He said if Middlesbrough get promoted, he'll get a horny for Warney tattoo on his arse if they went up.
Word's spreading, Jonny. You can't get away from it now.
Oh, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, word is spreading.
It's not sounding so ridiculous. But yeah, everyone seems to be loving it. And the local journalists, by the sounds of it in this clip, seem to be getting carried away as well.
When you came in towards the end of last season, you struggled to see, apart from probably the strikers, where on earth this team was going to score goals from. Now all of a sudden, George is carrying a goal-scoring threat when he gets into the box. Marvin's come on and scored. Jed looks like he's got goals in him. You've got players who last season didn't look like they were ever going to score. Now it looks like they've got it in them.
No, I know. Don't get carried away, son.
Calm down indeed.
Yeah,
Who don't love him?
What a guy.
Who doesn't love him? What a man. Anyway, so yeah, just quickly, so we'll go on. They're a Neil Warnock team, so it's easy to describe what a Neil Warnock team's like, but they're solid. Only lost 2 matches this season, only lost 1 on the road. They were on 10-game unbeaten run before they lost to league leaders Norwich, which was controversial, had a penalty ruled out for no apparent reason. Best defensive record in the league. Happy to let the home team have the possession, and just very solid. And again, I feel like I'm repeating myself for every warm-up we've done there, but another team I don't fancy Town against.
No, let's have a look at the strengths and weaknesses of Middlesbrough then, Brady. Like you say, another physical and direct side. Very tough to break down, having only conceded 6 goals this season. So I'll expect to see a defence incredibly watertight that we will struggle to break down, if I'm honest. Middlesbrough are blessed with a lot of strength and speed as well across the back four. A lot of energy in midfield. House and Saville, good players. Assam Bolonga, we've seen at this level for quite a while. Decent player to lead the line. And they'll probably line up with a 4-2-3-1 as well, Chris, which I'll be honest, against Stoke, those 3 attacking midfielders pressing our defensive midfield really, really interrupted and spoilt our game plan, I thought. And Wickham tried to do that as well in midweek. How do you see Middlesbrough in terms of their strengths and weaknesses in relation to playing us?
Yeah, you guys have obviously summed it up. It doesn't take a genius to work out what Neil Warnock's teams are. Obviously, there's 2 sides to them, really, that I see. There's obviously the side you guys have mentioned in terms of how solid they are. I think they kept something like 5 out of the last 6 have been clean sheets in the league, or 4 out of the last 5. They haven't conceded more than 1 goal in any league game, and that those things are worrying considering some of the stuff we mentioned before about us and how we struggle to sometimes penetrate and get in the box. So obviously that's a worry. They are old school in terms of in possession with the ball, like we seem to be saying for a few teams. But they're in the top 6 of the leagues of shots from crosses, shots from free kicks, and shots from corners. So they're a typical Warnock team, as you've said. So I think Tavernier will be an interesting one to try and keep an eye on for them. I know we're going to talk about the defensive players in a bit more detail later on, but in terms of his quality, shooting from distance, obviously they've got height, which is a Warnock team trait, so set pieces and crosses a bit similar to Wickham. The difference between them and Wickham, and we spoke about that, obviously, is just the quality. It's a similar type of style, direct, without the ball. They'll be hard to break down. So pretty similar for that. And the games are going to be tight. The difference is, I think, obviously, it's the pace and power up top that Warnock's already got as well. And like you said, with the wingers, but also with someone like Patrick Roberts operating in behind the striker, just someone who can do something a little bit different. I know you had Tomlin for Cardiff, and he could pick a player like that. He has that maverick type player as well who can make something happen when maybe they aren't playing as fluidly. So I think it's just going to be an absolute, got really not good news in terms of watching it for a spectacle. It's going to be a grind. I think it's going to be a real grind. I think is now the time to talk about how we maybe exploit them, or is...
Yeah, you can do, yeah.
I mean, obviously, I tried to watch a couple, because obviously there's not many goals being conceded, so was not really much point watching that. I think looking at some of the highlights from the Derby game, they did try and stop Derby playing out, which is an interesting tactic. Warnock's teams tend to be very man for man all over the field, which it can be effective because they often show a lot of desire and they're quite tough to play against. I remember we did something specific when we went away to Cardiff, when one of not Davies' last game obviously, but when we played them in the Championship, Phil Billing scored that worldie. Off the ball movement and being clever without the ball can really pull them about. And when Derby had their best spell in the game, it was when they actually had good off the ball movement to pull players. So if you get the centre forward dropping deep, the centre back will usually follow in a game like this. So that'll be key. It's the opposite to Wickham though, where I said if we get it wide, work it quickly, they didn't look great from crosses. These will devour crosses all day. So we're going to have to be a little bit more clever with that play sort of centrally. A bit like we spoke about before, it might take something a bit special and out of the ordinary really to unlock it.
The way I look at them, Chris, is that defensively they look quite compact, very strong, very compact. The 2 defensive midfielders will sit in as well, which will then make a defensive 6, if you like. Looking at it, again, I don't want to pick Carol Lighting out as a key player every week, but he will be. And that it just looks to me that if a team's set up to be so compact, then you've got to switch the ball effectively and switch it quickly to make sure that you move it to one side and then switch it quickly across to the other to maybe try and get in behind. And that's probably going to be the big struggle, because I think they'll be pressing our midfield as well, because they've got some energy in there as well.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. I suppose the most interesting maybe stat number I found for this team was that no team in the league has been behind for fewer minutes so far this season. So they're not used to, the one hope is that, they're not used to being behind. So it'd be interesting, as I said with Wycombe last week, if they do go behind early and we do score first, Wycombe aren't likely to come out because they're happy with 1-0, and if they scrape one late on, happy days. Whereas it'd be interesting to see what happened with, obviously, scoring is going to be a problem. But if you manage to score early, the way then that they'd have to come out could really suit Town. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. If there's any game, if there is a first goal, if there's any game where the first goal will really dictate the game, it'll be this one.
I'm looking at players in particular that Middlesbrough have got as well. So I've picked out a couple of players, and unsurprisingly, they're all in defence. So, Middlesbrough signed Paddy Mcnair, who was playing for Sunderland, and he played really well for Sunderland. And to play really well for Sunderland in this sort of 5-6 year blip that they've had is quite a rarity. So they've managed to pluck a decent player, Northern Ireland international. He was playing.
They've got Watmore as well, didn't they, Matt?
Yeah, they've got Duncan Watmore as well, who's playing left side. Paddy Mcnair he's been playing defensive midfield quite a lot since leaving Manchester United, but it looks like Middlesbrough have slotted him into the back four. It looks like to me he's the backbone of the Middlesbrough defence. He's the league's top tackler with averaging 2.5 tackles a game from an attempted 3.2. And then next to him, you've got Dale Frye, who has the most interceptions in the league, and he's third in shots blocked. And then you've got Bowler at left back, and then Dyke, a player that almost signed for us in 2019, or was on our radar in 2019. He figures really high in defensive stats as well in terms of the league. So you've got really two of the best defenders statistically in the league here. Two of the best centre backs in the league, and it just, when you start looking at this, delving deeper, you just kind of see what a tough task this is really for Town to break this down, Brady. Break down the defence, really.
Yeah, definitely. We'll talk about Dyke still. Some fans have been calling him Virgil van Dijk still. That's how good he's been this season. It's going to be a difficult one. I think again, Chris, because you kind of looked at the Derby game when I had a quick look as well. Derby did get a couple of chances. I think the issue with Town, as we know, is we don't really create much at the moment, and when we do, we kind of need a couple of bites at the cherry. Whereas I think this is a game where if we do create a chance, we're really going to have to take it to get something, and it'll be interesting to see. I think we kind of talked about weaknesses as well, but I think a real strength for Boro, certainly from what I've seen, is they're very good at recycling the ball. So if that first chance goes, they're really good at putting it back in the area, still causing that danger. And for me, I'm sure we'll come on to it, but I think this game is won or lost on how good we defend rather than Boro in particular. I think we need to be really strong, which we haven't been recently.
Interesting. So moving on to players, which, as long as you guys are ready to do so, moving on to key players for Town. I've picked out a key player for Huddersfield, and that's I'm gonna go first just because it's on the back of what Brady said there. And my key player for Huddersfield Town against Middlesbrough is Naby Sarr. Again, it's going to be direct and physical, and with the size of Naby Sarr, he needs to carry on his decent performance, I thought, against Wycombe. I thought against Stoke he wasn't so good, but none of the back four were good against Stoke, in my personal opinion. But I thought Naby Sarr was decent against Wycombe. He dealt with a lot of up and unders, which came his side. I thought Schindler did really well, actually, against Wycombe in the first half. Stearman did okay. They will need to stand up to that again. What I'm looking for with Naby Sarr is really he's going to have to look after Assombalonga when Assombalonga pulls to that inside right. But he needs to be disciplined. Naby Sarr is currently the 4th worst centre-back in the league for giving away fouls. So we can't have any of that around the box with how good Middlesbrough are at set pieces. And he's 5th. Almost spat over my microphone there, sorry. So he's 5th for most inaccurate long balls from a centre-back. So if he has a good game, because he can be very good at spreading play from that left side. We need him to spread, like he can do, like he did against Rotherham when we played Rotherham on his debut. If Naby Sarr has a good game, he doesn't have one of those wobblers like he had against Preston, then if he stands up to Assombalonga and he's good from set pieces, doesn't give much away, then Huddersfield Town have platform to me to go on and get something from this game. So my key player this week is Naby Sarr. How about you, Brady?
So I've gone for Isaac Mbenza. Just looking at Boro, they force teams to kind of shoot from distance, and I think set pieces will be key. And obviously, we've seen what Mbenza can do from set pieces. Think of that goal against Birmingham. He's also got quite a good delivery of corners when he does take them as well. And I think, again, that might be key. But he's playing well, and, you know, we talk about stats on this podcast, but I think when a player's playing well and they're kind of informed, that can be the difference sometimes. And I think that's what Mbenza could be. I think he'll be key to us getting anything out of the game.
He's currently our best attacker, in my opinion. For the last few weeks is Isaac Mbenza. Chris, who have you picked out this time?
First of all, I massively agree with Brady there. I think it's going to be a game. I know you mentioned Brady around maybe needing a couple of chances. I think it's going to be a game where we're going to have to score from a set piece, which seems, you know, like you just mentioned there, or it's going to be a moment of genius from somebody. So I think, having said that, probably jumping a feature too early here, but I'm thinking it might be a bad game. I don't know what the right back situation looks like, but it might be a bad game for Bacuna to play in the middle. I think he's someone, I've said before, he's really unpredictable. He's still, to say how fewer minutes he's had and what fewer run he's got in the team, he's still up there for us in terms of chances created, shots, and a lot of the offensive stats. He's a bit unpredictable, and he has got that match winner about him. He's also a match loser, which is the problem. But I think for me, but Bacuna, particularly, I'd play him in the middle, could be someone, and if not, obviously him, someone who's able to unlock that door. Potentially, obviously, another Matt's favourite, an Eiting, Moy type player. But yeah, Eiting will be another one. But I think it will be a good shout to try and get a little bit of unpredictability, because Middlesbrough look like they're pretty good when they know what's coming. So that's me.
So we'll go to our still unnamed feature. We've only had one potential name so far. Let's hear more for what you would like. So we're going back into Bill and Ted's time machine, and we're bringing a player back from the past to play for Huddersfield Town in this game. So we still need a name for the feature. Keep them coming. Once we've got a good handful, we'll probably put it out to a vote on social media. I'm holding back on my favourite name so far. Chris has come up with a good one. Brady still lacking at the minute, but I'm sure we'll get there.
Whoa, hang on.
So, Chris, I'll come to you first, Chris. A player that you would go back in time to fetch forward to unlock Middlesbrough, or even keep Middlesbrough.
I have just described two Dutch midfielders who are unpredictable. And I'm now going to talk about a third Dutch midfielder who was unpredictable, but in my opinion, a level above what we're talking about at the moment. Dean Gorey.
Not Rajiv Van La Parra, no?
No, actually, Jeeve fits into that, but he's not a central midfielder. He's a winger, he's Jeeve. So, Dean Gorey, obviously, I've mentioned all along, he's going to take something special. And he was probably the one player when I was growing up at Town where you thought, this guy, he came and he had the Champions League tag on him, obviously. And you thought, really? And when he came, some of the things that he could do in that league were just special. And I think that's going to be something that we're going to need to see, a bit of genius from someone, or some quality from a set play, or just one bit of genius that might just turn it. And the player that I thought of was him.
I'm going down a similar route, but I'm going to let Brady go next.
Okay. I think this is a player that you could argue for almost every week.
Aaron Moy.
No, that's not backup.
Stop it with Aaron Moy. Moy's is all
My
right.
favourite player of all time is Aaron Moy. I'd pick him every week for this.
Is it, Matt? You've not made that clear. No, I'm going to go back to 93, 94. Fun fact for you lads. I was born in 94. A bit before my time. 29 goals that season. You know what I'm talking about, Andy Booth. I think this is a type of game where you'd want Andy Booth. He'd be battling for anything that came his way, from set pieces, crosses. And let's be honest, his head was a magnet for the ball.
Do you know what? He was amazing.
He was quick.
Yeah, it was just amazing.
He was quite quick as well.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
Rapid, and he could finish left foot, right foot. I mean, he was the best striker I've seen at Town, without a doubt.
I always wanted to see Boothie take a penalty, because I never knew which foot he was. Because he used to take it onto his left foot quite a lot. And then I saw him take a penalty against Dean Hoyle or something in like 2009, like half time, and he took it right footed, and I was like, there we go. 15 years later, I've got my answer.
Later on, his best foot was his head, wasn't it? I'm sure he'd say the same.
Like Chuck Norris has a fist that comes out of his beard. Boothie had a foot that came out of his, I
think that's a great shout. You could argue for that. Prime Boothie would win any game, I think, at this level. It's a great shout.
Prime Boothie was an outstanding footballer before his knees started to... Even when he came back and he couldn't run as much, he was still decent.
A legend, isn't it? And a legend of a guy as well, I've got to say that. What a guy.
Excellent. I have gone for... Okay, so with a resolute backline, I like Brady's shout there. I thought he might be going Ronnie Jepson at first, but then 29 goals.
I was thinking Phil Starbuck when he started saying that sort of
era. Well, I've gone for someone who, like you say, I'm looking at long-range efforts, people who can shoot from distance, which I think may be the way to sort of unlock this defensive Middlesbrough side. So you need
Dyson?
John Dyson scored that goal against Plymouth in that season. That was 94-95, wasn't it? That season, yeah. That was amazing, that wasn't it? But Boothie against Rotherham, that volley as well. We're still on Boo that.
Anyway,
but yeah. So someone who can score from nothing, long range efforts that fly in, capable of beating players and putting it on a plate for somebody else. So I'm going back to about 2010-11 for mine, and a player that used to cut in from the right all the time onto his left foot and find the bottom corner. And you remember that goal against Sheffield Wednesday, live on Sky. My pick is Anthony Pilkington for this week. I think, Brady, what might be quite good is if we put... Although I think you might win this one, Brady, but we might put that to a poll on social media.
Oh, yeah, let's put it to a poll, see what the people think.
Because I think I won last week because a few people agreed with my pick, so I'm going to think we'll put it to a poll, and I think Boothie might get a nod. I think that's a good shout. That one. So, earlier today...
Wow, what a player.
Yeah. Earlier today... Brady chatted to a Middlesbrough fan. It's Jonny from the Boro Breakdown. A couple of interesting stories here. So let's listen to what Jonny had to say.
Cool. And I'm joined on the line now by Jonny from the Boro Breakdown. Jonny, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm very good, Brady. I'm very good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, man. Thanks, considering how rubbish we've been a bit recently. But anyway, we won't talk about that. So I want to talk about Middlesbrough. So what a great start to the season it's been for you guys. Were you expecting this at all?
No. Put it simply, no. We've played very, very well this year so far, and it's been a really nice surprise. I thought we were going to be mid-table, low end of the table, but we've just been like a Neil Warnock side. It's not pretty, it's not unbelievable to watch. You just somehow grind out wins. I don't even know how. Obviously, you'll know. Obviously, with Neil being manager of Huddersfield at one point, he's managed everyone, hasn't he? So it's but you know what you mean. Like you just grind out results. It's so good to see. Like sometimes you just don't play well, but you still grind out the result, and it's really nice to see. Massive surprise.
Yeah, and you obviously we talked about Warnock. He's a bit of a championship expert, but can you tell us a little bit of what he's done at Boro to change things? Because obviously you're similar to us. You had Woodgate last season, new manager, wasn't doing too well, and then obviously it's a complete change with Warnock.
Yeah, with Woodgate, it's never worked out really. It was just he needed experience around him. He never had it. I know him and Robbie Keane have done so much in the game, but management-wise, they just didn't have that experience around them to change games when they needed to. We didn't have a bit of luck under him, and tactically we weren't great. I think with Warnock, he just came in and made things back to basics, made us hard to beat, made us defensively shrewd, and we're picking, like I mentioned, we're just picking up points and being the hardest working team in the league, and that's what the championship's all about, really. And that's probably the big change, is that the fact that we're running a lot more now, we're defensively very shrewd, but we just didn't have that under Woodgate, really. But it's nice to see us turn a corner and be back to where we were used to in the championship.
No, definitely. And what are you kind of expecting for the rest of the season? Do you think, because you're 7th, is that right at the moment? Do you think it'll kind of be around the playoffs?
We're 7th now, and I was so surprised. To be honest, I don't know. I honestly don't know where we're going to finish this year. I think Warnock's main plan is to get us to January. Hopefully bring in a couple of players. I know Balassi's been mentioned quite a lot. We've just signed Duncan Watmore on a short-term deal, so we might extend that because he played well last night. And we'll just see where the wind takes us, I think. There's no expectation on my end. I know at the start of the season on Boro Breakdown, I've said it on quite a few podcasts that the horny for horny tattoo on my backside if we get promoted is getting more and more realistic, even though I don't want it to happen, but it'd be great if it did. So if that happens, then fantastic. But there's no expectation on my part. If we can finish the highest we want, then that'd be great for me. That's a big bonus, especially from last year.
Well, I hope you get the tattoo because anything Neil Warnock related is always cracking.
Isn't it? It really is. Honestly, if you want to go viral, just post a video on Neil Warnock and it just does the rounds, doesn't it? It's great.
I saw that one he was posting. I think we were going to talk about it, but the after you were winning midweek, where he's telling that journalist to calm down. It's just meme potential all the time. So I'm going to come on to our game actually, because you had a good win in midweek. What are you expecting from the match on Saturday? Have you been following Huddersfield much?
A little bit, yeah. I know. Obviously, you've changed a lot of the style of football now. It's more possession based, and I know that obviously I can't remember his name top of my head. It's gone. Your manager's name, can't remember.
Corberan.
Yeah. Honestly, he just went poof, gone out my head. And look, I know he's obviously came from Bales's backroom staff, so you're trying to be you're expecting similar style of football, but it's more possession based. But from what I've heard, you just can't put the ball in the back of the net, really, or you've just been very unfortunate. So, am I right with that, or do you think there's more to the surface?
No, I think you're right. It's weird. There's games where we don't seem to create a lot of chances, but then obviously we lost 4-3 to Stoke the other day, and then we can't score against Wickham. So I think you're kind of right, to be fair. So yeah, what are you kind of expecting from Boro then? Do you think you'll just crack on, or do you think we'll be a bit of a tough opponent?
I think it's honestly every game. I'm going to sound like a manager, but every game in the Championship is solid. You just don't know, and anyone can beat anyone, can't they? And I think with this type of game, the way you play, I think it does kind of suit us to a T, really, because we don't have much of the ball anyway. We're hard to break down, and when we get a chance, we tend to put it away, which is really bizarre, really. I think we've only scored 12 goals all season, which is like one of the lowest in the league. So it's, I think it's going to be a really tough game. My heart really says draw. I just think it'd be a tough game for both sides, but the way that we've been playing lately, I think we could go there with confidence for sure.
Yeah, I'm a bit worried about this one because you're exactly the type of team we don't want to play. And like you say, Warnock, it's just a solid side and they're always hard to break down. I just wanted to talk about some of the players. Is there anyone we need to be on the lookout for in particular? Anyone who's been performing well recently?
It depends really what you're after. I think if you're looking for players just to watch in general, Anthony Dyke still has been incredible this year. The turnaround that he's had when he first signed last year under Woodgate, had a really tough start coming up from League One, had a bad injury, and he's came back, just different play. He's been absolutely brilliant. What centre half? Mark Bowler, again, a Woodgate signing last year. He's came in this year. He went on loan to Blackpool last year because he couldn't get a game, and then he's come back and he's just been superb. But we're very, very solid. We're a very solid team in a unit at the minute. But I think players to watch from an opposition perspective, Paddy Mcnair, if you can watch him, a number 10 for Northern Ireland, but plays centre half in this system for Woodgate. He comes into midfield and he'll just spray a ball 30, 40 yards, which is amazing to watch. But apart from that, I think it's apart from McNair, I think you just got to look at the side in general. If this whole side is just a really hard-working team, a close-knit unit, and hopefully we create a couple of chances here and there and we might put them away. But I think one player to watch for me is just Paddy Mcnair. Over to look at Anthony Dyke being brilliant so far this year. George Saville's been quite good. But then also Mark Bowler as well. He's played quite well as well.
Yeah, Dyke, I think we were linked with him actually before we went to you. So it's good to know someone's doing better who we didn't sign. Just before I let you go, I'm going to have to push you for a score prediction. You mentioned draw. Is that what you're going for in terms of?
Yeah, it's top of my head. I think 1-1. I don't know why. It just feels like a 1-1 game, doesn't it? I would love us to get a result and keep the run starting up again. We obviously 1 unbeaten now, but we were 10 unbeaten before the Norwich game. But I would like a 2-1 win, but I think a 1-1 draw is more realistic.
Well, to be honest, Jonny, I'd take that at the moment. So I hope you're right. But yeah, no, cheers for coming on, mate. Much appreciated.
No worries, mate. Thanks for having us.
Okay, interesting there from Jonny. Good comments. And now it's time for our comments. Probably not as interesting as Jonny's. So in terms of predictions, team and score, what are you guys thinking? Brady, I'm going to come to you first again this week because I think you were last pick last week quite a bit, so I like to rotate. So let us know what you're thinking this week.
Just his favourite now, Chris.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
So I mean, there was rumours that Pippa might be back for this game. So I've gone with if that is the case. If not, I'd probably play Bacuna at right back because I don't think he had too bad a game against Wickham, even though he got flattened by Akinfenwa at every opportunity. I'm going to go 4-3-3. I think get the fullbacks forward when we can and have the defensive midfielder drop into space, back through if we need to. This is a controversial one. I think Hogg needs a rest. And teams have figured out that if you stop him, you stop us at the moment. I think that's quite clear. So I'd switch it up. So Schofield still gets the nod if Hamer's not back. I've got Pippa. 4-3-3. Pippa, Stearman, Sarr and Toffolo. Because, again, news on Schindler, depending on what happens.
Got concussion. I think you have to have a week or two after you, Chris. I don't think you can play.
Yeah, depends. It's a protocol, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go for my free of Eiting. I'm going to go for Vallejo because he's played a couple of B-team games now and he's a tall lad, 6'3". I think he could help with the kind of aerial threat of Boro.
Yeah, I see that.
And then O'Brien. Again, I think maybe he a bit more box-to-box and maybe doing a bit of a hog roll as well. Then I'm going for my front three of Mbenza, Ward and Karoma. I think this is a good game for Ward. I think Ward's actually quite good with his head.
Chris said that last week.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think he needs to get a run of games now and get fit. So this will be a tough game. So I think form would suggest that Boro are going to win, but I think we might get a 1-1 draw. Just have a feeling about it, and I'd take that. I think that'd be a good point. So 4-3-3 and a 1-1 draw.
I'll go next. So very similar to yours, Brady. I've gone 4-3-3. Schofield, Pieper, Stearman, Sarr, Toffolo. I've stuck with Hogg, O'Brien, Eiting, and then same front three as you, and Mbenza, Ward, and Karoma. I think Ward's time is now, and I want to see him as a striker, what he was signed for, rather than coming on the left hand side. My prediction is that it's obviously going to be tight. It wouldn't surprise me if it ends 0-0. I think one goal either way wins it. And I think Middlesbrough are probably slightly more likely to get that. But I'm going to stick my neck out and say 0-0. 2 0-0s in a row for us. Chris?
Well, you've just stole my scoreline. So I am actually going to go 0-0. I think, like you say, I couldn't agree with more with your synopsis of the game in terms of how tight it's going to be. Team-wise, I think we're very similar. I mentioned earlier I'd like to have Bacuna in the middle. Pippa obviously will be a huge addition back in at right back and allow you to do that. A bit of freshness up the middle. And I think obviously Wardy did well, came on, just had a couple of shots and, like you say, just get him a bit of time. And if we're struggling near the end, just change the colour of the ball. I think that's the thing. Change the colour of the ball, give it to Wardy, get the smoke machine out and, if
like the frontier again in 1999.
Benno might not be too pleased on the other bench, but let's get it out. So I think that's my idea. Obviously, Karoma and Mbenza pretty much staking their claims for those two slots at the minute. I actually thought if Pritchard would have been in and around it, could this be a game for him? Like I said, with the clever off the ball movement, to maybe even if he's just as a decoy to really drag their man for man scheme around, but. No, I think we're all pretty much on the same wavelength there, but 0-0 for me.
Yeah, so let us know in the comments on YouTube and via Twitter as well what you think the score is going to be. We will get a prediction league up sooner rather than later. But again, thanks for listening to the warm-up, and we'll be back before the next game.
Oh, what a night. Late in May in 2017. Schindler scored, it was a heavenly dream. What a feeling, what a night. Oh, what a night. Wagner singing, we are Premier League. The greatest sight, St. George's Square at sea. What an evening, what a night. got a funny feeling when he walks and a fence, and then the commentator yelled he takes that chance. Oh, what a night, lost so safe and mesmerizing me. Low charge and flattened all Chelsea, Stamford Bridge, oh what a night. Whoa, I got a funny feeling when he walks and a fence, and then the commentator yelled he takes that chance. Oh,